Hello from Portland. It's February 27th. It's 11:24 p.m. It's very late. I had meant to record this vlog earlier today, but I have a good reason why I didn't. I went to yoga instead. It's something I really like to do, and yet I have to drag myself every week to do it. And I was actually thinking while I was doing yoga this morning how strange that is. Because A, I really do like it when I'm doing it. It's one of the most enjoyable forms of exercise for me. I get to think, but I'm also doing something physical. It raises my energy level, it diffuses a lot of stress, and it physically feels good to me. But I have to drag myself to do it. And I got to thinking why that is. And I've been reading the last few years a lot of books about how the brain works, and I've talked about some of the books before, uh, mainly this idea that the brain is modular. And people don't like to hear this, but your brain is really more of a collaborative set of cells than it is a single consciousness. We are sort of the product of a bunch of different power centers pushing different agendas in the short term and the long term, and the physical and the emotional. But the thing I realized this morning is that the part of my brain that really enjoys yoga, that really feels good when I'm doing yoga, is not a verbal part of my brain. And it doesn't really have a voice when I'm sitting at home deciding whether to go do yoga. Then the parts of my brain, what we call the executive functions of the brain, are in charge, and they're not directly connected to the parts of my brain that really like yoga. Now, the executive part of my brain has a memory, and it can sort of hear testimony from my memory that yes, I do enjoy yoga, but somehow it's not as strong when I'm sitting on my couch. And most of what we think of as self discipline is really this process. It's giving more weight to the parts of the brain that don't happen to be verbal or don't happen to be connected directly to the decision making part of the brain, and reinforcing it. But it actually reminds me of this old episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, and I've forgotten the name of it. But you'll know if you watch the show, you'll remember what I'm talking about. It's the one where they get caught in a time loop and the ship keeps exploding because they keep making the same mistakes. And then the time loop starts over, and then, but every time the ship explodes. And Data, the android, is somehow aware of the time fluctuations and starts trying to send messages to himself in the future. And he can only send these little messages. They're very ambiguous, and he kind of codes them into his programming. But that's what we have to do to ourselves. We identify things that are good for us, that are enjoyable, that are healthy, but then we forget, or we're just stuck by inertia or the pull of gravity or fatigue or whatever. And we have to send these messages to ourselves. So one of the reasons I decided to do this vlog on this subject was to create a message to future Kevin to remind me that I really do enjoy these physical activities. They're an important part of my life, and however soft and comfortable sitting at home may be, I need to reinforce that habit. Otherwise, the enterprise just keeps exploding. Thanks for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.